Everyone. All right, so this is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. I love lists and I love movies and talking about movies and making recommendations. So I figured I would just combine all of that and make a video and share my thoughts. So before we jump into the top five, I wanted to give a quick shout out to some films that I really enjoyed this year and just missed the cut. Oddly enough, this list is horror heavy this year, but regardless, these are some must see in my opinion. Okay, so first up is Late Night with the Devil. So this movie surprised the hell out of me. It's set in the 1970s during a late night talk show, and for some reason that setting makes it feel more real. It does a really good job of continuously building tension while sprinkling in some genuinely funny moments. There is a kind of a comedic relief character, kind of like the Andy Richter guy from Conan. But David Dasmalchian is amazing as usual. So he carries the movie for long stretches, and it's really his subplot that kind of lends the mystery element to the film and really asks the question: why does he keep going? Why does he keep letting this show go on? Essentially, I thought this was a decent year for horror films, so it really says something that this was my highest rated horror film of the year. But definitely give it a shot for a different angle at a horror movie. So another honorable mention for me is Oddity. And this is another horror flick that I really feel like came out of nowhere. This is definitely on the more emotional side of horror, but it still packs some of the best horror imagery that I saw this year. It has some awesome performances, and so it was just a really nice surprise for me. It's definitely a movie that dives into the horror that humanity is capable of, and I think that's the reason why it just really seems to stick with you far after the movie is over. So another good one to check out. So those were my honorable mentions. They just missed the top five. I definitely recommend that you check them out. And now that we've talked about honorable mentions, I want to talk through some dishonorable mentions. So some films I didn't enjoy as much. And first up, unfortunately, is Trap. I love my guy M. Night Shyamalan, and I love my guy Josh Hartnett, but this was a tough watch. On paper, it's a good premise. We get a POV of a serial killer. We're kind of seeing his good side, hanging out with his daughter, pop star concert. Um, so that's an interesting POV. The problem is the pop star concert. It's really really hard to create a fake pop star for a movie with fake songs and a fake crowd and make it feel real, right? Make it feel believable. There's a lot of cut shots to the crowd, a bunch of people attending this thing, and kind of fake vibing, fake cheering to the music. And it's just awkward. The songs made me cringe. The actors fake vibing to the music made me cringe. And I think overall, it just took me so far out of the movie that the rest didn't really even matter. So it was a no go for me, but still a big fan of M. Night. I'll catch you next time. My second dishonorable mention, and won't be a surprise to anybody that knows me, but that is Deadpool and Wolverine. So I'm not going to get super into the weeds on this one. I'm just not a fan of superhero movies, and this isn't really the place to go on a rant about them. The movie was fine, but my big issue was that for me, I felt like it ruined one of the only good superhero films I've ever seen, and I'm talking about 2017's Logan. I feel like that was a perfect ending to a good story. It was powerful, it was emotional, but at the same time, it felt very satisfying. That should have been the true end. But of course, money talks, and so nothing that prints money stays dead for long. So back from the dead comes the Wolverine. Of course, they had to go out and invent some story, and the MCU is so damn complicated. You need Einstein to unroll what they've created here. I'm sure he's rolling in his grave just thinking about it. But what I don't understand is how how can they expect anybody to buy into this story when nothing really matters? When death is temporary, when anyone can come back at any point in the future, why should we buy into any of the events that they're showing us? Um, so I don't know. I just think that the state of the MCU is just a mess to me, and I don't plan to be back for a while. Okay, so now that we got the honorable and dishonorable mentions out of the way, it's time to dive into the top five. Overall, there's no Oppenheimer this year, so there's no movie that floored me and was so far ahead of the pack that I felt like it was definitive. It was quite difficult to rank these movies, especially the top three. But I do feel like overall this makes sense as a top five. So without further ado, let's go. So number five, Furiosa. It was just great to be back in the wasteland, back to seeing and listening to some really badass vehicles, visiting locations we didn't get to see in the last film, learning about the backstory behind several characters from Fury Road. Shout out to the cameo from my guy, the Doof Warrior. It was a top five movie background piece of all time for me. Once again, the action was stunning. I really enjoyed Chris Hemsworth's character as this weird fusion of wasteland overlord, quasi father figure, kind of funny, kind of doofus characteristics, but ultimately just a survivor trying to get by. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of my faves, and I saw her take some criticism, just like Tom Hardy did in Mad Max for a lack of dialogue. But honestly, I thought it was a great physical performance. The movie as a whole didn't do anything new or outside of the box enough to surpass Fury Road and jump to the top of these rankings, but it was a blast to watch nonetheless. So number four, we have Dune 2. So it feels fitting to me that the two largest IP franchise productions are next to each other on this list. It's hard to get just one piece of a larger story in front of the complete stories told at the top of this list. But for me, this is about as good as it gets for an IP sequel. It was, for the most part, faithful to the book. It might have the most loaded cast going when you think of Chalamet, and this movie added Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Lea Seydoux, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson. Like, my God. And, aside from that, Villeneuve's vision for Arrakis and the Dune universe in general is just thrilling to watch. He's just one of those directors that I have unquestioned confidence in to take care of a story. So this was awesome, and I can't wait for the next one. So number three, we have Challengers. So Juanito makes tennis sexy in this one. Zendaya really shined through again, but the rest of this cast was great as well. For me, what I loved the most was the sound design. The sound design was out of this world. As soon as a tennis match came on and you felt and heard the techno and EDM beats start to fire up, I'm just like, oh shit, it's on. I felt like the Zendaya storyline of having your career and potential stolen by injury, I felt like that was really relatable and inspired empathy, which kind of counterbalanced some of the menage a trois angle of the story, which was maybe less relatable. But at the end of the day, I was entranced from beginning to end. It was a job well done. Number two, we have The Substance. Gosh, where did I even begin with this one? It has the most buck wild, crazy ass 30-minute end sequence you'll ever see. I honestly thought the movie had reached its ending before that sequence even started. But unlike the Batman a few years ago that felt like it should have ended twice before it did, I'm not complaining this time. The sound design was outstanding. It was definitely reminiscent of Challengers in the Margaret Qualley filming scenes. What elevated this above Challengers for me was the set design matched the sound design. From the workout scenes to Dennis Quaid disgustingly chewing shrimp with his mouth open, to the lockbox scenes where Demi Moore picked up the substance, to the bathroom scenes where she was born. This is a gorgeous film that evokes kind of a modern minimalism while managing to infuse that with a little bit of futuristic dystopianism. From beginning to end, this is just a fun ride. I haven't been able to stop thinking about this since I saw it. Please watch it and let me know what you think. And at number one, we have The Beast. So this movie came out of nowhere. I had no clue it came out until well after the fact. So I'm pretty sure there was no hype or any kind of significant advertising campaign to accompany it. Um, I was completely unfamiliar with French director Bertrand Bonello, and to see a sci-fi romantic tragedy film get made in this decade is truly a blessing. So I heard about the film from the awesome folks at The Ringer, and as soon as I saw and heard that Lea Seydoux and George McKay and sci-fi, I could not wait to see it. And my God, what a tour de force it is. So it's my favorite Leah performance, and she basically only does awesome stuff. But McKay is definitely up to the task as her counterpart. So the story weaves back and forth through three timelines, and I'm starting to realize that I'm kind of a sucker for that trope, being that my all-time favorite film is Cloud Atlas. But there's definitely some kind of future dystopian vibes, reminiscent of The Matrix, or another recently a film, Crimes of the Future. But ultimately, the heart of the film is the attraction and the fated to be together aspect between Seydoux and McKay, where no matter what timeline they're in, they're drawn to each other, and there's kind of this irresistible aspect to their relationship. It all leads up to an absolutely devastating gut punch of an ending that really stays with you well after the movie ends. For me, this is a triumph of vision, a triumph for letting someone take a chance to make something truly unique and inventive. And I really, really hope we continue to get films like this in the future. So that's a wrap. A wrap for the list, folks. So here's the complete top five. I wanted to quickly shout out my good buddy CT who gave me his list, and I definitely respect his film opinions. So here that is. Obviously, we disagree on Deadpool and the Wolverine, but we have a couple of the same films, and DD is actually a film that I can't wait to see. Just haven't had a chance to get to it yet, but I've heard awesome things, and I'm really excited. Hopefully, I can get to it here over the holidays. But my goal was to release this video just in time for when most people are going on holiday break so that you can catch a few of these movies during your time off. So let me know what films you think I missed in the comments. Don't hesitate to reach out to me so we can talk some movies. Always happy to do that. And yeah, Merry Christmas and happy holidays.